Is retained earnings shown on the trial balance? Have you ever wondered where retained earnings fit into the trial balance? This is a great question that touches on some key concepts in accounting. Let's break it down step by step. First, the trial balance serves a specific purpose. It is prepared to ensure that total debits equal total credits in the ledger. This document includes all accounts that have actual transactions recorded during the period. These accounts cover assets, liabilities, equity, revenues, and expenses. Now, what about retained earnings? This account represents the cumulative net income that a business retains after paying out dividends. It is part of shareholders' equity on the balance sheet and reflects profits accumulated over time. It is important to distinguish between temporary and permanent accounts. Revenues, expenses, and dividends are temporary accounts. They accumulate balances during the accounting period but are closed at the end of the period to reset their balances. On the other hand, retained earnings is a permanent account. Its balance carries forward from one period to the next. At the end of the accounting period, the balances of revenue and expense accounts are transferred into an intermediate account called income summary. This account is then closed into retained earnings. Any dividends declared during the period are also closed directly into retained earnings. This process updates the retained earnings balance to reflect the current period's net income and dividends. Now let's talk about visibility. Since retained earnings is updated only after closing entries, it typically does not appear on the unadjusted or adjusted trial balance. If no direct transactions have been posted to it yet, you won't see it there. However, it becomes visible on the post-closing trial balance. This version lists only permanent accounts after closing temporary accounts. Dividends, on the other hand, are recorded in a separate temporary account during the period. They do appear in the trial balance until closing entries transfer their balance to retained earnings. So, while dividends can show up on the trial balance, retained earnings usually do not until after the closing process. From a tax and accounting perspective, retained earnings are significant. They indicate accumulated profits that may influence dividend distributions and tax liabilities. Since retained earnings is a cumulative equity account updated only after closing, it is not part of the regular trial balance listing of transactional accounts during the period. In summary, retained earnings is not usually shown on the trial balance before closing entries. It appears on the post-closing trial balance and the balance sheet as part of shareholders' equity. Dividends can appear on the trial balance as a temporary account until they are closed to retained earnings. Understanding this distinction is essential for anyone studying accounting basics.